And good morning, my beautiful America. Welcome back to the All American Book Club. I'm Eden Gordon Hill, and boy, do we have a powerful voice and author here for you guys this morning. Okay, I just am going to have to say this really quickly. Charles Martin, the brand new book, The Keeper, his fourth installment. But okay, I said to him before we hopped on this interview, where has his books been all my life? Oh my gosh, I cannot put down these powerful books. You have suspense, you have faith, you have mystery, and then you also have some very powerful voices of faith coming from his books. So please help me welcome to the show, New York Times bestselling author, Charles Martin. I'm so glad to have you here.
Hey, I am so grateful you would have me. Thanks for making the time.
Absolutely. So for the people on the YouTube channel, here is the most recent installment of your series. So I would love for you to break this down for the God, Country, and Family audience, for the veterans of the military. This is right up their alley. So I want to hear all about bones.
All right, you're holding up The Keeper. The Keeper comes out April 1st,
Yes.
and I'm massively excited about it. But for people who don't know of me and have never heard my name before, this is number four in a series. So let me just back up briefly and tell
Yeah.
you about 6 or 7 years ago, I was on book tour in North Georgia. I was talking about some other book, and I go to my a book tour for me is my truck and about 2,000 miles and a bunch of stops. And I
I
know of
love
other
it.
I know of other writers who have planes, and that's not their book tour. But me, a book tour looks like that. Anyway, I got to my motel, and it was a motel because the glass between me and the guy checking me in was about 4 inches thick. And but I'm pretty low maintenance, so okay, no problem. I had a couple hours before my event, and I threw my stuff in my room. I went down to a Coke machine, got a water bottle, and I'm walking back on the second floor balcony walkway thing to my room, and a Jaguar pulls in the parking lot to my left. The only other vehicle is a truck, which is mine. And when the guy pulled in, I mean, it just stuck out. This is not a great section of town. His Jaguar looked like something James Bond would drive. And when he pulled in, I don't know why I saw it, but the sun reflected off his wedding ring. And when he got out, he looked like a guy that could run a bank or a hedge fund or whatever. I'm 6 feet. He was probably 6'3", 6'4", big old guy, kind of, kind of overweight, just a big human being. Anyway, I learned this later. His room was behind me, but he purposefully went in front of me, came up the stairs, and then walked toward me because he wanted to talk with me or at least confront me. And so I'm walking one way, he's walking towards me, and we approach each other, and I sort of step out of the way, and I kind of nod, and he stepped in front of me. He didn't step out of the way. He stepped directly in front of me, blocking my path. He didn't say anything. He didn't say hello, not good morning, not good night, not nothing. And he sort of pointed behind me towards what I learned was his room. And this is what he says. He said, yeah, so I've paid for some time with these girls, and sometimes they like to have somebody watch us, and sometimes they like to have somebody join us. Are you interested?
Oh my gosh.
And my first reaction was not real Christ-like. There's enough of the unsanctified Charles left that I thought about putting my fist through his face. But my next thought was if I actually hit him hard enough, he's going over the railing and he's going to land on his Jaguar. And how am I going to explain that? So I said no. My radar's dinging, and I'm like, anyway,
Oh
he
my
all he
gosh.
does is he walks past me, goes in his room. I go to my motel room, and it was like the Lord took righteous anger and just put it in my chest. And I just got PI double crooked letter ED. I just got mad. And I called Christy, and I'm kind of like unpacking it with her on the phone just because I just can't believe that. And I watched as this Mustang pulls up and these two beautiful girls, women, scantily dressed, get out, walk up the stairs, go into his room, spend 45 minutes, leave. Mustang pulls up and they exit. And I don't know if they were 15 or 22 or 23. I don't know. But I do know they were somebody's daughter and maybe somebody's mom one day.
Right.
And
Right.
so I go to my book event that night, and I rather than talk about my book, I'm like, look, this is what happened to me today. And I talk about it, and it just so happens that the guy that owned the bookstore runs a ministry in the metro Atlanta area where they rescue trafficked girls and boys, and they had rescued several people from my motel. So that was
Oh my
that
God.
was my introduction, and he introduced me to law enforcement ministries. I spent a lot of time talking with girls who had been trafficked, and that began bubbling in me, and I didn't know what to do with it. So along with that, in the couple days after, I'm either in Matthew 18 or John 10, and I can't remember, but it was like the Lord highlighted for me that in the kingdom of God, the shepherd leaves the comfort and safety of the flock, be it snow, sleet, hail, bullets, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what time it is. He leaves and goes and rescues the one because in his kingdom, in that moment, the needs of that one outweigh the needs of the 99. And that just stuck me and stuck with me. And so out of that came a book called The Waterkeeper and a character by the name of Murphy Shepard and his boss named Ezekiel Walker, who goes by the nickname Bones. Now we're 4 books in. I didn't think we would get to 4. I wrote 3. I thought I was done. Movie people in LA started contacting us, and we go to have meetings with these studios. And as they're talking to me about Murphy, my mind begins bubbling. And the next thing I know, I've written The Keeper. So, long story short, that's how we got Murphy Shepard, The Keeper series, and The Keeper coming out April 1st.
So there's so much to unpack. I want to first, well, one thing it reminds me of, but from the faith perspective, my husband and I watch Reacher. We absolutely, and it kind of reminded me of that as I started digging into it. I'm like, but the faith component of Reacher, not the, what you see on Amazon. And, that military veteran mentality of hearing what you were writing in these books and having worked in government, it resonates with a lot of the listeners here. So let me ask you this first. Can these be read as standalones, knowing you can, but it's better to read them in order?
I guess you can, but man, you're missing so much
Right.
if you don't go through them in order. You can. I know people who have done
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
then they start asking me questions, and I'm like, "Well, did you read the one in front of it?" And they're like, "I didn't know there was one in front of it."
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
one of the things that I learned in meeting with trafficked boys and girls, men and women, is that there are 2 rescues. There's the physical rescue of their body when somebody kicks down the door and lifts them out of a place where, on average, they're being raped every hour on the hour for about 20 to 40 times a week for months on end. That's the horrific, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's the physical rescue, and but because something so horrible is happening to them, many of them disassociate their mind and their heart from their body, be it with medication, drink, drug, whatever.
Right.
So there's a second rescue that happens as they get safe and they get around a community of people that they want to know, am I lovable? Am I used up goods? Will anybody ever love me? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. But without fail, the thing that I learned from them, every single one of them would pray that somebody would knock down the door. As I've also met law enforcement who are actively rescuing trafficked people, they do kick down the doors and they do rescue them, many times people die, the traffickers die because brave men and women kick down those doors. So I've had those men ask me, how does God see what I'm doing? And I
Yeah.
think God opens you with welcome arms because you are the answer to a prayer. Somebody on their back with something horrible happening to them is praying that God would lift them from that place, and you're the answer to that. So you just do what you do and send them to Jesus. Let him work it out. I don't know how he's going to work that out, but that's his deal. He's the judge. You just rescue the kid on their back.
What has your readers, your audience said to you as you have hit these real life hard topics? Because, a lot of us, we live in these suburban neighborhoods. We're not exposed to it, but you know what? You know what, Charles? It's literally right here in our backyard if you
Yeah.
want to wake up to it. So what kind of responses do you get from people, your readers?
I can't write all that I know because if I write all that I know, you won't read my books. They'll make you
Mm,
go up and you'll close them and you'll go, you know what, that's just not my thing. So I have to sort of paint it in flashes, or it's almost like when you know you're reading these hard parts in my book, I'm almost painting impressionistically. I'm not I'm not I'm not telling you every single thing that happens because I can't. You don't need to know it. You're not gonna be entertained. You're not gonna like my books, none of that. But I got to give you enough to let you know that it's evil and it's really evil.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to fight this balance between giving you too much and giving you too little, and I don't want to whitewash it. I think
Right.
on the whole, the people who are familiar with it thank me for how I portrayed it. The ones who don't know anything about it, it's an eye opener. In most suburban areas around the country right now, homes are rented for the sole purpose of trafficking people and having clients go on the dark web, buy a slot somewhere during the week, their lunch hour or whatever, show up, go inside, do their thing, and leave. And it happens at most hotels in the country. Matter of fact, one of the things I've learned is that rescuing trafficked people has gotten very sophisticated. And there are ministries now who have now mapped hotels around the country so that when they see a picture of someone being offered on the dark web, they can match that image in the motel, hotel, whatever, with what they know of the thousands and tens of thousands of places that they've mapped. And it's how a lot of them are being rescued.
So let me ask you this for our audience here in the Washington, D.C. area, what are ways, where can they get involved? What are some of the organizations you're working with where they could also know the signs, because you have a lot of policymakers, you have a lot of highfalutin people running the hills, running the White House, running the Hill, etc. So, what kind of tools can we give this audience to say, hey, I think I saw something. What do I do about this?
Well, there are a lot. Two that I know of and have personal experience with. One, and everybody knows him, is TTF, the Tim Tebow Foundation, and he's been on
Yes.
the Hill and has
Yes.
spoken in front of Congress. And God bless Tim for all that he's doing. He and I have been on a podcast together. We go to the same church. They rescue a lot of people, and most of us don't ever hear about it because they don't advertise it. But they have planes and people and law enforcement folks that kick down doors, and they really do a phenomenal job of it. The second ministry that I have experience with is the Pure Hope Foundation, the Pure Hope Ministry in Texas. And it's just a husband and wife who have opened their arms, bought an old ranch, and they are focused on the second rescue. I've talked about two. The first is personal, the second is the heart. They're focused on the heart and communicating to these women, you are lovable. And they have some beautiful stories of women getting out of being trafficked and them loving them back to health, and then somebody falling in love with them and them getting married and having kids. So they've got just incredible. But those are two that I know. There are a bunch. Um, I don't I don't know who to tell you to. I would find somebody in your area, and there are a bunch of them, but you can start with those two.
No, those are good recommendations. Let me also ask you this: with you and your wife, your platform of faith and how it just really all started for you with this book series. And I want to touch upon a couple of your other books. You have a devotional, you have other faith books, you've been on a lot of different faith podcasts. Talk to me about the journey that you and your wife have been on all these years and just how God has transformed you. I mean, this whole show is about God, and it talks of and it's pushing people if they're in desperation back to the cross and just giving them an opportunity of hope.
I'm in the 25th year of my career. I'm 56 years old. I have over 30, I now have over 30 books. Somewhere in about my 12th book, it was a novel. It's a novel called Long Way Gone. It's in the process of being translated to film. We're going to make a movie out of it. But I was in the middle of writing that, and I've known the Lord my whole life. That doesn't mean I've always been obedient, but I've known him and walked with him. And so I was kind of a lot of times when I'm writing, part of me will be working on the story, and the other part of me will be talking with the Lord. And it's a strange thing that happens, but I was halfway through that novel and I said to the Lord, Lord, I love what you let me do. I don't want to ever stop telling stories, but I would love to tell the story of you and me. Long story short, he opened up a door with my publisher and I wrote two books that are kind of companions to one another. First is called What If It's True? The second is They Turn the World Upside Down. And it's really my walk with the Lord. But it's a walk through John, primarily the Gospel of John with the other gospels thrown in, but then what the Lord has revealed to me through his word and through the power of his spirit. So those came out, but they kind of served as primer to a book I wrote about 2 years ago called It Is Finished. When Jesus is on the cross, the
Yeah.
Gospels record him as having said seven things, the sixth of which is tetelestai. We translate it as it is finished. I've been told it's more correctly translated as it is perfectly perfect or it is completely complete. For some reason, one day in church, I heard that and I thought, well, what was perfected? And I know in my head,
Yeah.
but I wanted to walk back to the cross in such a way that the Lord could reveal to my heart what was finished. And as I did that, the Lord really showed me and my own sin, which is the only thing I bring to the cross in the first place, which is my sin and the need for him. So it was a beautiful thing that the Lord did for me. A lot of people think I wrote It Is Finished for everybody else. I didn't. I wrote it for me. And I'm praying the Lord uses it in your life and in other people's lives as well. But it was a it was a humbling, beautifully humbling thing the Lord did with me. That doesn't mean I'm humble, but he humbled me with just his revelation of me and my need for him. And so it just became this 40-day devotional. Um, I I I had a thing happen after my 12th book. I had a thing happen where I was in a Barnes and Noble and a lady walked in that I had met the year prior, and she walked up and handed me a book that I had given her. And the year prior, she was dressed in all black and had pale skin and long black hair and black fingernails. My kids described her as goth, and I didn't know what goth was, but that's what she was. And the following year, when she came in, she was beautiful, radiant, had some friends with her, and she walked up to me and handed me the copy of my book and said, I don't know if you remember me, but this book walked me out of suicide. In the mornings when I woke up and had the pills in my hand, I would read from this book. And so it was just began a conversation where she showed me how the Lord used that story to do a thing in her. As the scripture says in Ephesians, it says, when we were dead in our trespasses and sins, he made us alive. Well, somehow through the words in my book, he did that in her. And that was an inflection point for me in my career. And it changed how I pray. I still pray that my books hit the Times list. I still pray that we can make movies, those fun things, but they
Yeah.
pale in comparison to
Yes.
Lord, would you please speak to people's hearts through these stories?
Well, I have to say this. We have a little less than 4 minutes left. And as we're talking through the stories of hope and redemption as we're headed into this Easter season, you have given such powerful examples of both the physical and the emotional healing that you have seen through your readers. And just because of your writing and how God has transformed you, he is at work in all of us in so many different ways. And it moves me in so many ways that I want to be able to I want this show to honor and glorify him, and I also want it to really just impact those who are. There's so many people out there who are desperate, and whether they are atheists or whether they knew and heard and wondered and never experienced, but to be able to hear some of the stories of transformation that you are experiencing, that you have shared, I hope will impact them. I
One of
want Go ahead.
one of the things I hear from readers, like email, letters, whatever, and I get a lot of letters from prison because parents of kids send their my books to their kids in prison. And I've gotten a bunch, but the theme that covers across all of them is, and I've gotten letters from several from death row, from people who have committed horrendous crimes, just public. We know these people's names, we've seen them on the news, and there are consequences, and they're serving those, and they should. But something happened to them when they got in prison and the Lord met them somehow through the words of the books that both I've written and then I and Joby, my pastor, have written together. And the thing that I can't, the thing that I love that I just can't quit thanking the Lord for is there are people here on planet Earth who think they've done something that disqualifies them from the love of God, that Jesus will not rescue them because they've done something that's too far gone. But that's really not an understanding of the cross. The cross of Jesus reaches across the stratosphere. There's no place on planet Earth where the blood of Jesus can't snatch you back. I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you are. I don't care how horrific you think it is. There is nothing that you have done that disqualifies you from the love of the Father. I've loved hearing that in the letters that I got one yesterday from a lady in Africa, basically saying that. So as we go to Easter and
Yes.
we focus our eyes on the cross,
Yes.
Jesus is not still hanging there. There is an empty tomb on the other side, but he did hang there. That cross should have been yours. It should have been mine. It should have been everybody else's. We should be that mangled man. That should be us, but it wasn't because he took our place. So as we just walk into Easter, let me encourage you if you're hurting, broken,
Yes.
you're thinking, you're hearing the whispers that saying you're just, no, you're not disqualified. You have a Father who loves you. How much? Let me walk you back up to the cross and let me show you his son because he did that for you.
Amen to that. Well, I mean, you just wrapped up the most perfect interview for kicking off the Easter season. Um, Charles, where can my audience start picking up your? I know Amazon, but I want them to go to your beautiful website. What's
Well,
the best?
go to charlesmartinbooks.com and you can see them all there. If you would like a signed copy of any of my books, there's a place there. You just click get a signed copy and it'll take you to a bookstore in my hometown and Desiree ships all around the world. So if that's how you want a signed one, go there. If you just want to order it, go to Amazon. That's probably easiest. There are other ways to get it, of course,
Yeah.
but those are the two.
And then finally, do you have anything else coming up? I'm sure you do. This is pretty much a dumb question, but okay, what do you have coming up for the fall and Christmas? Do you have anything else that we need to be on the horizon for to get you back here to talk more in depth?
I've just written the fourth book with my pastor, Joby Martin.
Okay.
He's a brother that I just love dearly, and he's written a book on manhood
Okay.
called "Stand Firm and Act Like a Man." It's taken from First Corinthians 16:13,
Okay.
and it is a much needed book. It's a beautiful book. We'll start that road show sometime in September, but
Okay.
it's good stuff.
All right. Well, I look forward to having you come back, and we would love to have your pastor come join us. We'll do a big interview and highlight the book. I think this is just powerful and amazing. And thank you so much for kicking off the Easter Stories of Redemption and Hope series with us here at the All American Book Club.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. For all those who are tuning in, stay tuned. We'll be right back for our next segment.